REKLAW RIA, a fantasy novel written by Melody Stegaheis and read by Melody Stegaheis. Chapters 16 through 18. Chapter 16, I'm Flying. Do I look like a horse to you? Rex complained. Yeah, a great big green one with wings, Devlin grunted, as he worked to cinch the last knot. This just doesn't feel right, Rex whined, wiggling around. Oh, knock it off, you big baby. You'll get used to it. Besides, my butt isn't getting back up there without it, Devlin warned, pointing to Rex's back. Well, there's no way you're sticking a bit in my mouth, Rex said with a huff. There isn't one big enough. Talon's cackling laugh filled the air. Oh, please, please stop. If I laugh any harder, my feathers are gonna fall out. Oh, shut up, Devlin and Rex said together. It had taken most of the day to figure out how to get the saddle to fit Rex's back. It took even more grunting and groaning and hawk's laughter to get it to stay there. But it was what came next that Devlin dreaded the most. Straightening his shoulders and taking a deep breath, he climbed into the saddle. Using bits of rope, he tied himself in and grabbed the reins he had attached to a spike in front of him. Okay, he said rather shakily. Let's do it. Rex took a couple of running steps and spread his wings. Devlin let out a howl of fear as they dropped off the cliff's edge and fell several feet. A wing beat later, they were soaring high above the mountain range as Rex adjusted his wings to float on the wind currents. They were only in the air a few moments before Devlin began begging Rex to land. Nope, Rex said over his shoulder. Nope? What do you mean, nope? Devlin screamed from the saddle. I'm not landing until you turn the right color, Rex said with a little laugh. What? Devlin screamed, shaking his head in disbelief. Humans aren't supposed to be green, are they? Rex said and laughed a little harder. Seriously, Devlin, you have to get over your fear, and the only way to do that is to face it. So I'm not landing until you do, Rex said with a little small shrug of his shoulder. Devlin's heart skipped a beat and panic set in. For the next several minutes, Rex turned a deaf ear to the curses and whimpering whines that came from the saddle. He hated doing this to his newfound friend, but he could see no other way. Devlin had to do this. There was just no other choice. After a few more minutes, Rex tipped his wings and made a low, sweeping turn. Devlin's face turned a shade darker green as he emptied his stomach into thin air. A little horrified squawk from below made Devlin jump in the saddle. Talon swooped in within a few feet of Devlin's face with a look of murder in his golden eyes. You are disgusting, he screeched as he shook the remains of Devlin's dinner off his head. Devlin started to laugh as he watched Talon fly away in a huff. He laughed and kept laughing until he realized he wasn't panicking anymore. He realized that the wind actually felt good on his face, and the sun really felt good on his back. He was just noticing how beautiful the mountains were when Rex's voice interrupted his thoughts. I see you're not green anymore, so I'll head back to the cave, Rex said with a toothy smile. I think I can handle it a little longer, Devlin said with a shy smile. Rex chuckled and tipped his wings to turn again. This time the sound Devlin made was more laugh than scream. By the end of the day, Devlin was doing much better in the saddle. Some of the moves Rex made still made his stomach turn, but all in all he felt that he could handle it. Later that evening, as he sat next to the fire in the cave, he and Rex talked of the coming day. It was decided they would leave for Cansora's cave first thing in the morning. He would have to deal with any upset stomach as best he could. They had very little time left. They were so engrossed in their conversation that they both startled when Talon swooped with a squawk. He landed on his favorite rock and ruffled his now clean and shining feathers. Devlin smiled shyly and said, "Look, I'm sorry about—" "Don't bother," Talon said and turned his back to both of them. "Oh, come on, old bird, it wasn't that bad. And he did say he was sorry," Rex said as he lowered his head to Talon's level. Talon's head spun around and he glared at Rex. "And just how would you know? You weren't the one that got puked on." "I am sorry," Devlin said with a sheepish grin. "Next time I won't aim so well." Talon's beak dropped open and his eyes grew wide as he stared at Devlin. "Aim? You were aiming? You... Rex and Devlin burst into hysterical laughter as Talon huffed and puffed indignantly. "By the way, we're leaving to rescue Brianna in the morning," Rex said, between spurts of laughter. Talon stopped in mid-huff, looked from one to the other, and started to laugh as well. "Good one, kid. Good one." After everyone calmed down and started to settle in for the night, Rex cleared his throat and said, "Devlin, I need to tell you one more thing before we leave tomorrow. It's important, so I need you to listen, okay?" Sure, I'm listening." Devlin sat down by the fire and waited for Rex to continue. "Remember what I said happened between human and animals long ago?" "Well, there's more to the story," Rex said. "A few centuries after everything happened, the eldest and wisest of dragons had a vision, and that vision has become a prophecy of sorts. It has been passed on to dragon for ages, and it goes like this. One that is born, one that is given, bringers of change. A son hunts mother, a brother becomes father, bringers of change. Parents fear, children hear, bringers of change. What once will be again, all will change." Devlin listened carefully to every word, and although they really didn't make sense to him, he knew he was part of it all, and that sent a shiver down his spine. Chapter 17. Hopelessness. Brianna's hope was fading fast. It had been so long since she had heard from the wolves. She had tried several times to get answers by calling into the wind, but nothing, not even a bird, came near Cansora's cave. She had even tried talking to the creatures that lived in the entrance caves, but that had failed miserably. As she spoke to one of the elder bats that swarmed the upper cave walls, it happened to notice a baby rat dodging between rocks on the cave floor. Without saying a word, the bat swooped down and grabbed the squealing infant. With a swift beat of wings, it brought the poor creature up to its waiting family. Juliana was horrified as they tore it to pieces before her eyes. One of the bats noticed her reaction and laughed evilly at her. "What, Two Legs? Do you know nothing of life? It is eat or be eaten." It leered at her with a gleam in its eye. The rest of its family just laughed as they licked the blood of the rat from their fur. The rats would not speak to her at all. Their only interest was squabbling over what little food they could find. Even the young ones ignored her, no matter how much she begged and pleaded for them just to talk to her. After trying and failing several times, Dree gave up, realizing they would be no help for her from any of Cansora's so-called house guests. Her rations were all but gone. All she had left was a thumb-sized piece of gritty cheese. If she nibbled it slowly, it might last another day or two. And then what? Would she have to kill rats or insects? The thought turned her stomach. She knew she would do what she had to, but rats and beetle stew sounded absolutely revolting. Her clothes were nothing more than rags now. Everything was stained and muddy brown and ripped in several places. No matter how many times she washed in the little pool in the water cave, the stench of the caves would not wash off. She felt as if the smell that permeated clear to the bone. Oh, and oh, her hair. It was so ratted and matted that she could do nothing with it except tie it up with one of the napkin squares just to keep it out of her eyes. Juliet rubbed her hands over her face and then looked sorrowfully at them. Her nails were broken and the skin was rough and stained. She knew that her face was splotched red from the heat of the nest, and her eyes were dark ringed from lack of proper sleep. "If someone does come for me," she thought to herself, "they will probably think I'm some crazy old hag, not a 16-year-old girl." "Stop," she said aloud. "Pity and tears are not helping at all." Walking out into the night air, she sat near the edge of the cliff. She marveled at the full moon and the twinkling stars, and then watched storm clouds gather in the distant horizon. Hanging her head, Dree prayed, "Please, someone help me. Please, please help me. I'm running out of time." Chapter 18. To the Rescue. Iridescent wings glowed like emeralds in the early dawn light. Shafts of light sent sparkles running through each of them as if it had a light of its own. Rex did his best to stand still as Devlin strapped on the saddle and harness, but little giggle sounds escaped him now and then. "You have got to be the most ticklish creature I have ever known," Devlin said with a grunt. "I'm not ticklish," Rex replied. "I'm just anxious to be on our way." "Oh, yeah?" Devlin said with a laugh as he purposely tickled under Rex's right leg. "Hey!" Rex squealed and jumped a foot in the air. Bringing his tail around, Rex bumped the back of Devlin's legs just enough to set him on his butt. "Hey yourself. Now you're gonna get it," Devlin laughed. Jumping to his feet, he slowly moved towards Rex with his arms outstretched and his fingers moving in tickling motion. "Oh, no you don't," Rex said with a toothy grin, and flicked his tail playfully. "Would you two stop mucking about?" Talon said as he swooped by. "We have company." "Company?" Devlin and Rex said together, looking first at Talon and then at each other. 2 men, Talon said as he settled himself on a nearby boulder, a mile down the mountain. Miners, maybe? Devlin said. What did they look like? Talon cocked his head sideways as if thinking. One looks mean, and the other looks big and stupid. Why? Devlin scrambled for his pack and sword. We have to go. We have to go now, he said. He jumped into the saddle on Rex's back. Swinging his head around and looking Devlin straight in the eye, Rex said, What's going on? What's wrong? Those aren't miners. They're hunters. Dragon hunters. They followed me here. Devlin lowered his eyes and blushed in shame. Back at the start, me and the others, stopped at a place, and those men were there. Otto, one of the others, started boasting about killing a dragon. You know, making a big deal of it. Devlin blushed again. Well, later in the forest, after Otto disappeared, we ran into them again, and they told me who and what they were. I just never thought they would follow me this far, Devlin mumbled, looking down at his hands. Well, they won't be able to follow us in the air, Rex said with one quick swoosh. They were soaring in the sky. After a few minutes, Rex said, Devlin, you didn't know, so stop worrying about it. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Rex tipped his wings first to the left and then to the right, giving Devlin absolutely amazing views of the terrain below. With all feelings of shame and worry disappearing, Devlin let go of the saddle horn, threw back his head, and laughed into the wind. It wasn't long before movement in the valley below them caught his attention. A herd of white animals were running along the shore of a small lake. At first he thought they were horses, but tiny glints of silvery white kept flashing from their heads. Those are unicorns, Devlin said in amazement. But my brother told me they were extinct. They almost were, Devlin said as he watched the herd run. Men nearly killed them all before the Commandant was taken from them. There were only 1 or 2 small herds left when they disappeared into the mountains to hide from the hunters. They're so beautiful, Devlin breathed, and at least they are safe now. Rex gave a little shrug and said, I'm sure the occasional wolf, griffin, or mountain lion gives them grief, but it does look like their numbers are growing. Devlin's mind flashed to the horses he left behind. He hadn't really thought of the dangers they would be in on their own. His heart skipped a beat with the thought of Windancer being attacked by wolves or snatched away by a hungry griffin. She was such a beautiful animal, with her soft brown and white coat and deep brown eyes. Now that he could speak to her, he wondered what the voice of such a generous soul would sound like. He could only hope that her natural instincts kicked in to keep her and the other one safe. Looking back over his shoulder, Devlin whispered, Stay safe, girl, because maybe, just maybe, I'll get a chance to know you better. It gone, Cam, Too Big said dully as he stood in the center of the cave. I can see that, stupid, Thatcher growled. He knelt in the dirt and studied the cave floor. He stood, grabbing Too Big's arm and shoving him towards the entrance of the cave. Check around the area. Unless the beast swallowed him whole, there's got to be some sign. He drew his hand over his face and scratched his chin. What of the girl? There's no sign of her either. Could there be more than one? No, that's impossible. I could have sworn Kansora was the last one. With a frustrated growl, he scratched his head roughly and stomped from the cave. That's the end of this reading. Thank you for joining me today. You have a wonderful day. Bye now.